Hey, venue friends, and welcome to our monthly Power Hour session. This is where our team here at Venue Help Desk brings you quality education completely for free, just to help give you fresh eyes and help guide you through the different areas of your business. We're always working to attract higher quality leads, convert them to bookings, and optimize our workflows. So this month's focus is a little bit more on the optimized side. So if you're joining us live here on the Zoom, let me know down in the chat if it's your first time, if you've been to a power hour before, just so I can kind of gauge who's here and what they know. For those of you who aren't super familiar with Venue Help Desk, our focus here as a team, Ian and Paul are here with me down in the chat. It's really about helping wedding and event venues solve one problem at a time. And that's in many different areas of your business, but really focusing on like what's the fast fix. We love to provide done for you resources and tools. We've got freebies over on the website, and it's why we bring education like this to you every single month with different topics. So you are here today and signed up to join or watching this on the replay. If you can't find the right people to add to your team, or you're ready to grow but don't know how to recruit really good talent, or maybe you've got great people and you don't want to lose them. So, this topic for this presentation we're going to go all the way back to 2021. And after, as we were coming out of COVID down here in Central Florida, we had this great in-person event, and it was this panel, and it was ILEA and NACE, two of our local associations, came together to do a state of the industry, right? They were sharing like insights. They took a lot of questions from the audience, and I was pretty surprised because it was really some of it was a little bit painful in terms of the information that they were sharing. And we were coming on the tail end of everybody was trying to hire again, and they were talking and using words like, oh, people are so lazy and they don't want to work and they want freedom and flexibility, or they're asking for so much money and money that, like, ultimately I maybe would have considered to be like a livable wage. Right? Like people weren't asking. I think we learned a lot through the pandemic of like, I don't really want to work and not be compensated in a way that I think is fair. So I really started to think about how much I admire people who are entering the workforce and coming back, and some of their attitudes and the way they think of things. It's a little scary, I think, because it's a little bit more of what we should want. As a business owner, I want to have the freedom and flexibility and time to take vacation and not feel like I'm drowning, right? To make what I feel like is enough money to live on and for me to be able to save for my future. And what I think is fascinating about the current workforce is they really don't take no for an answer, right? They're not like, nope, there's no good enough mentality. And I admire a little bit about them. Maybe a little bit controversial, but I really just feel like, you know, I come from a world and was raised in a place in a space where it was like work and grind and put it in and loyalty and things like that. And we'll talk about some of the generations when we talk through this presentation today. But, ultimately, the average American will spend 1/3 of their life at work. 1/3. And I had to put American in here because European countries and a lot of other countries, they don't work as much and as long and as many hours as we do here in the US. And so 1/3 of your life at work, I mean, that's a lot of time. So we've all had those jobs we weren't happy with. You gave it your all, you weren't appreciated. We stayed too long, at different jobs. We stayed too long, long past when we should have quit, or we gave them too many hours and too much of our time. And so I have a crazy diverse work background, as many of you probably do. In most of the places listed here that I worked at, in American Eagle and at the bakery. I mean, at the bakery, I started there when I was 14. And at American Eagle, I was a store manager at 18 years old. I mean, a store assistant manager at 18-year-old. They hand me keys to the store at 18. I was oftentimes in a lot of the places I worked, I was one of the youngest people on the management team. Everywhere that I've had an opportunity because of that work ethic and work mentality. But the problem with that is that I had like really different ideas and I loved systems and building and creating the systems, but I always had to fight to be heard, right? I always had to like fight to get my voice heard and my point across because I was young. So when I started my own company at Wedding Venue Map, which is a Central Florida venue search engine and a local directory here, our local industry says a lot of things to me about you always find the best people. The people who work for you are fiercely loyal. Like they don't leave you. They come and they stay. And so when I heard this topic and this conversation happening at the ILEA meeting, I was like, damn, there's got to be a better way. How can I share the things that I figured out in my secret sauce with the rest of the industry? And that's where this topic came about. See, my current team today, we are different ages, religions, education, backgrounds, life experiences. I mean, we range all the way from my youngest, which is 21 on the team, all the way to my mom, who is 76 now. And my mom is our Instagram engagement specialist. Like, she literally scrolls through Instagram, comments, and likes on things. Like, that's her secret sauce. It's the one job she does. She helps us at check-in at events and things like that. But she does sit in on marketing meetings and things like that. And so it's wild when you start to look at the mix and the makeup of your team. And all the different things people bring to the table. At the top, up with my face, is Derek and Gail, my business partners. Derek owned a business for 30 years before we met and connected. And so I had just so many great ways. But ultimately, I started to ask them, why do you like working here? And if this is something you haven't done with your team, it's such a basic thing to do, whether it's in your like monthly team meeting or in a Slack channel or whatever, but start asking your team, like, why do you like working here? Like, what do you love best about working here? It was great, the feedback I got, because it learned things that I was doing good, but also ways that I could improve. Right. So, or do more of. One of them was the opportunity to learn new things and grow, that we provide that for our staff. We challenge them to, continue educating and learning. They have dynamic positions working on different things, meaning it's not just the same thing over and over and over again. That's the young ones love that factor. The older team members don't love that things change and there's additional roles and things like that. Number three was I'm listened to. My input can affect change. That's a huge one, right? I work really hard to listen to them, but that I take the advice and we make changes based upon their feedback. They want to work with someone with an impressive reputation who influences others. So the fact that I'm a speaker and an educator in spaces like this, and I speak at conferences and that, I'm active on social media, that is important to them, right? That they want to be able to say, yeah, I work for that company. More or less, that comes down to they're proud to be there, right? It's a brand that people respect. This is really important. I have a team member that actually like self-identifies a lot by the quality of her employer's Instagram. So everywhere she works, she always comes in to try to get them to level up and see through a different filter, just on Instagram specifically, because that's important to her. And then one of my youngest said, working for you gives me life. I don't even know what that means, but I put it on here because it made me giggle. So there's some massive generation gaps when we look at today's workforce, right? Like there's a difference in behavior and outlook between the groups of people who were born at distinctly different times. I mean, my mom and Derek and Gail and so I mean, they lived through things like the 60s and the 70s and like they lived actual lives in time that I wasn't even born yet. Freaking wild, right? So ultimately, what we hear a lot is nobody really likes each other's generations. The young ones don't love the old ones don't love the young ones, and the ones in the middle are just kind of living in a floating out spaces. So there's some really common differences. There's a lot of negative stereotyping. A lot of common differences have to do with loyalty, employee loyalty, how long you work somewhere, how long you would work somewhere, communication methods. I had to teach my business partner how to text because he would always send emails or he'd call. And I was like, I don't have 30 minutes to talk in circles about nothing. Can you just text me your question? Right. So I did teach him how to text. So where and how we like to communicate, the outlook on authority, there's a respect level that comes from older generations that younger generations you have to work harder to earn the respect. It's not just given. expectations of how much time I'm putting in, it being time based versus results based. I grew up in a world where you had to, and started my career in spaces where you had to go to work Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 5, whether or not I had any work to do, versus it being results focused in today's world, that it's get the job done, right? Their points of reference. I was just telling somebody, I referenced Punky Brewster last week. And if you're a youngin' on this call, I'm totally here for it. But you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Punky Brewster. I reference movies. I mean, we're doing a cruise themed networking event and we were laughing and said boats and hoes for those of you who know the movie Step Brothers. And one of the girls on my team was like, uh-huh. We were like, damn, you have no idea what we're talking about. So we make her a running list of movies she's got to go back and watch. But also the framework of experience, the jobs we've had, the places we've been, the stuff, all of those are massive differences in between when you have a multi-generational workforce. So I want you to stop for a quick second and think of the makeup of your team. What are their different actual ages of the people who work for you? Like, what's the range? Who's the youngest on your team to the oldest? Drop it down in the chat if you're here with me live. But think through what's the youngest team member and how old are they versus the oldest team member on my team. It's not so much about the roles, it's really focusing on their age. So if you're here with me live, drop it down in the chat. See, there's 6 active generations alive right now, today, right? And so it goes from the builders to the boomers to Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and then Generation Alpha. It's freaking wild, right? Like there's so much and Gen Y is now considered millennial. So it's shifted since the origin. I didn't create this graphic, somebody else did. But now Gen Y is really in the millennial space in between, right? So let's see what we've got down in the chat. 26 to 64, 23 to 75, 19 to 55. Ooh, that's wild when you get the young ones. And ooh, Ian, 16. He's got some youngins on the team. You probably forgot some of the service staff and things like that, right? I'm talking all the youngest employee. It's not just about the full-time staff, the youngest in between. So when you look at, Generation Alpha, our youngest generations were born in 2010. They are 2 years or 1 or 2 years away from potentially being your youngest employee. So it's easy to be like, oh, that's not who's in the workforce right now, but damn sure they are. When we focus on where we're going to start, which groups we're going to talk about today, we're going to focus on these in the middle because the builders most of the time aren't in there. You've got boomers working based upon the numbers you guys gave me, and Gen Alpha. None of you have a Gen Alpha working for you right now. So just some of the big highlights of things that you'll see with the different generations, right? So baby boomers, this is like their the way they look at the world. Baby boomers were shaped by the Vietnam War, civil rights movement, Watergate. Like, think about these frames of reference that they have, right? They've got company loyalty, teamwork, a duty to their job. Like, that's what they're motivated by. Their communication styles usually based around efficiency, including phone calls and face to face. When a boomer is helping a couple plan a wedding, they want to talk on the phone. I had this problem with the resort I worked at. People would call me all day long, and I was like, look, I'm on sales calls and I'm cold calling, and like, I can't be answering internal phone calls. Can you guys just send me an email? Because I'm not a boomer, right? Like, I'm on that millennial Gen X line. So that wasn't how I chose to communicate. But employers, when you've got baby boomers on your team, you need to give them specific goals and deadlines. You want to focus on getting them into mentorship roles. Boomers have got some amazing experience to be able to share, and they want coaching style feedback, right? Important things you need to know. There's 10,000 baby boomers who are reaching retirement every day, but they are still in the workforce strong and all the way through. So next up is Gen X, right? Gen X is about flexibility. They're informal, they're skeptical, and they're independent. They were shaped by the AIDS epidemic, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the dot-com boom. Like, can you believe I'm saying that? The dot-com. Like, dot-coms didn't exist before them, which is like the internet. Freaking wild. But they're motivated by work-life balance, personal and professional interests. They'll work hard, but they love to communicate, a lot of phone calls and face-to-face, same. So as an employer for this group, you really want to give them immediate feedback. You don't need to like plan it. They're good to go. They're good to handle feedback on the fly. Flexible work arrangements and work-life balance is important to Gen X, not as much as to millennials, but it is important. And they love opportunities for personal development. Gen X is looking for growth and the next step. right? Next up is millennials. They were born 1981 to 2000. I live right on that line. I'm a 1980s baby, so I'm right on the line in between the two. I identify as millennial, though, for sure, in terms of my behaviors. They were shaped by Columbine, the internet, motivated by responsibility. The quality of their manager is really important. And unique work experiences, right? The employers, you should get to know them personally. They want to be known as individuals. And they want to be like managed based upon like flexible on schedule and work assignments. They also like immediate feedback. Next up is Gen Z. Gen Z are your youngest team members right now. They're a wild group, and I'm here for it. I wish that at their age I had been as confident as they are, as demanding sometimes as like giving myself personal space, not killing myself to work for other companies to the point where like I missed family functions and my friends' weddings because I had a stupid wedding. I don't know why I gave that hard. So I admire a lot about them. They think very global. They're very entrepreneurial. One of my favorite terms is an entreployee, meaning somebody who's got an entrepreneurial spirit but is still currently an employee. You've got to push and challenge this generation. They're progressive, but they are also less focused. They kind of flit and flitter and bop around a little bit. My Gen Z employees, we do a lot of time management. We have to teach a lot of time management because there's a lot of distractions in their world. They're in these group texts that pop off 50 times a day. They're motivated by personalization, individuality, and creativity. They like to be challenged, right? Their communication style is usually text, social media, the DMs. Are you finding that? They DM a lot. I don't DM with employees, but I'm saying like even with the couples, they're starting to communicate in this space. But they know they're digital device addicts, right? But they value independence and individuality. And they like to work with millennial managers. They don't love, Gen Zs don't love reporting to Gen Xers. It's not always the best combo, and they like innovation. So you want to give Gen Zers the opportunity to work on multiple projects at the same time. They make sure you are focusing on work-life balance. And what that means is like my Gen Z's on vacation this week. There is no texting her. There is no asking her questions. Like I have to prioritize that for her because me sending one text about work stuff could be a bad, like not put her in her happy place. So you've got all these personalities in the same workforce. How are we bringing them together? When you hear people say, oh God, the next generation, or oh God, you got to shut down the stereotypes and be like, stop stereotyping them. They're not all like that. My Gen Zs work their asses off. They are focused, they are driven, they are hungry, right? They're not all lazy, but I provide the kind of space that they thrive in. And that makes all the difference. You want to encourage mentorship on your team. When you've got those boomers and older people on your team, help them guide the younger ones. Staff meetings, we like to say one thing in our staff meeting that we learn from each other when everybody gets together, because my mama loves learning the new apps and how to, you know, do stuff faster and the automations. And we did a chat GPT lesson and my mom was like mind blown. It was insane, bringing them together, focusing on collaborating on projects together. I like to do lesson learned coffee connects once a month. When I had a big team when I worked in the golf industry, I would every month that like you had to do a coffee connect with someone else on the team you haven't coffee connected with before, have coffee and just be like, what have I learned this month and being able to share that. Looking at things at stages of life versus generations. So meaning parents are parents, no matter whether my mom's a grandparent now, but she's already been a parent. So partnering, people who've had stages of life, if I'm already married and you're planning a wedding, I've got advice I can share with you versus it being generational. So finding those opportunities to connect them on their stages of life versus focusing on their age. And then let them flex their unique differences. You've got to look for these opportunities to figure out what's really important to them. So in for 5 minutes, I left the wedding industry to go work in the golf industry. And so in the golf space, we needed a banging brand manager. I needed somebody who was so good, who understood the power of social media and the visuals we needed and could help me figure out how to market in China and South America because we were international marketing. We interviewed about 20 candidates. My all-time favorite candidate, at the end of the interview, I said, "Do you have any questions for us or, anything that you require to be successful at your job?" And she said, yeah, I have a kind of odd request. And I said, okay. And she said, is it possible to have a couch in my office? And am I able to take a nap in the afternoons versus a lunch break? Are you doing what I'm doing? Like, in an interview, she asked this question. And so the owner's sitting next to me as I'm interviewing her, and he's like, no. And I said, wait, tell me why. And she's like, look, like it's really hard to be creative for 9 hours straight. And I'm a really hard worker. I'll be probably the first one in the office at 8:30, 8:30. I'm an early riser. And I usually work until 6. Like I'm a crank it out, get it done so that when I'm off, I'm off. I don't take work home with me. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I can't be creative that long. So, whereas some people would like, I don't know, scroll social media or go outside in their lunch break, I really just like to take a nap for an hour. So it helps if I can just kind of put a sign on the door, unplug the office phone and take a nap. So I said, that's really interesting. It's not something we have anybody doing right now, but let me think about it. So we sit down and we evaluate. The owner's like, absolutely not. And I'm like, look, we've got to start figuring out getting the right person in the right roles, not worrying about so much something different. So, I talked to a few people in the office to see how they would react to it. Well, we hired her. I put a freaking thing in her office. I made her a cute little door hanger to hang on her door that says Lauren's napping. So nobody knocked on the door or walked into her office. So whenever she wanted to take her nap, she did. Do you know she was like the best employee that team had? She worked so hard. She worked so fast. She was so smart, all because we let her take a nap. You have to figure out what's important to people and create the space for them. We just don't live in a world where everybody's going to fit in the box. So think outside the box, which is why I share this story. Think about what do they need, what will help them to find the right people. Ask them what they need, right? Ask them what they need and encourage feedback. Like encourage them to give you feedback and feedback from everyone. Create the kind of environment where feedback is welcome, productive, and constructive feedback is welcome all the way through. Listen to what they have to say as individuals, right? And then take action. Keep the eye rolling to a minimum. I thought Gary's eyes were going to pop out of his head when Lauren said she wanted to take a nap every day. And so keep the eye rolling to a minimum and really be willing to listen and ask the question, why is that important to you? Why does that matter? Why do you need that tool to be able to do it? I remember once somebody at that company also asked me for a second screen. I work at home with two screens. I've got two screens up right now. And she asked for a second screen. And I said, what do you need a second screen for? And she's like, I'm twice as productive if I don't have to click between the tabs. So can I add a second screen? And so I looked at the budget and it wasn't really in the budget, but I could probably have finagled it around. So I set her a goal and said, I want you to have that second screen. So I'm going to give you a goal next month of doing X. If you achieve that, you get the second screen. So she did. She killed it because she wanted it, right? She wanted it. I said, meet me in the middle, meet me somewhere that would bring in extra revenue. And she did it. So I got her the second screen. Well, the second screen changed the freaking world, right? Like, change the freaking world of what how fast she could work and how efficient she was. I see people popping questions down in the chat. I love it. And I'll address everything at the end. We've got some extra time, so I'll address everything at the end. But people just want meaningful work in the space that they're in, right? Lifetime employment is a relic of the past. Spending 40 years at the same company and getting a gold watch is long gone. Long gone. Nobody wants to do that anymore. So if you can get a solid employee to be with your team from 3 to 5 years and maybe can make growth plans for them, freaking wild. Like you want to find people that are all in today. They're not going to be all in forever. Life changes, circumstances changes. Look for the people that are all in today. People who like live it and breathe it, right? They get excited. And strong company culture is the key to success and longevity of keeping people as a part of your team. So when I say company culture, it's the way people feel about the work they do, the values they believe in, where they see the company going, and what they are doing to get it there, right? How they feel, the values, where they see you headed, and what they're doing. They want to be a part of it is an important piece of, this info, right? You can feel it as an outsider. You can feel when a company has good company culture. Now, I'm sure when I say company culture, every time people are like, oh, Google, because they think of things like ping pong tables and whatever. But I want you to think about 3 companies. Think about some vendors that work at your venue And three companies that if you were looking for a job today, that companies that you would want to go work for, that you're like, their culture, like you can define their culture, vendors that come into your space, or other local businesses that you're like, damn, it looks like it'd be so great to work there. So three companies that come to mind in my world: we have a company called Arthur's Catering, and they have the most loyal staff. No one ever leaves. Like, no one leaves this company. They almost are never hiring unless they're growing. And so that makes you think like something's got to be good in that culture, because no one ever wants to leave. Next up is a company called Oddities. They do entertainment. This is the owner. Like, this is his professional headshot. It just looks like such a fun place to work. They're always doing unique and exciting things. And I know it's an entertainment company, but it looks fun. And then last up is a local hospitality. They do staffing for hospitality, conventions and conferences and stuff. But Dave, the owner here, he's probably got shorts and jeans on underneath the top half of this. He's relaxed and so chill, but he's got a get it done attitude. And I know he provides that freedom and flexibility. He takes a 2 month long vacation with his kids every summer. Now he works from the road, but they go on some kind of massive family vacation, massive family road trip. He is the definition of work hard, play hard. So these are the kinds of companies and the things that I would be looking for if I was going to work somewhere else. So culture matters because of innovation and creativity. It increases productivity and efficiency of your staff when there's good culture in there. It is also better customer service. When people are happier, they do a better job of taking care of your customers. Employee engagement also leads to employee retention. And I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, there's financial returns. When your staff is happy and wants to come into work and loves what they do their job better, and then you make more money. It's like the given, as which is the most important part of all of this. It's not what you do. Ultimately, it's how you do it. So, how are you evaluating what your company culture looks like today? Right? So, how are your employees communicating with each other? When you start to think about what does my culture look like in this moment, when you ask people what their why is, why they come to work there and what they love there, how are they communicating with each other? Do they talk to each other in work, outside of work? Do they kind of snap at each other? Do they talk nice? Are they like, hey, friend, like they're all really getting along? How are decisions made within your company, right? Do people feel empowered to make choices on their own, or do they feel like micromanaged, that they always have to ask permission? How are people hired, promoted, and let go within your company? This is a huge piece about company culture. How is a new person brought in? Do other people have ownership of that process? When they're promoted, are people on a step system, like where they know what the next potential opportunity is for them? And when you have to let someone go, which we've all had to do, I mean, I hope you haven't, but I've had to. How do you do that? How do you talk about them after they leave? What does that look like? That's really important as a part of your culture. What are the ways that employees are recognized? My boyfriend is like the most loyal worker any place could ever want to work. He is one of the longest employees. The company he works for, it's a massive entertainment complex. He does operations there. He's been there for 6 years. He's been there since a month after they opened. In his department, he is the longest employee. He has outworked management like anyone else. Now he's been promoted within, but do you know every single year it bothers him that they don't recognize his work anniversary and that they don't say happy birthday every year? So, like, how are you recognizing your staff? Every year he comes home and says it, that he's like, nobody realized it was my anniversary again. And he's their longest employee in the department. Like, you should be recognizing this. And how do your employees celebrate their work and each other? On my team, we have a director of fun, Bree. Bree is in charge of like when it's somebody's birthday, because I forget. My head's like in the zone. I forget work birthdays and anniversaries. I'm the worst, but I don't forget because I attach that to someone on our team who loves that stuff. She loves the celebration, the thing. She loves planning it. When a new employee gets hired, we work from home, but when she used to work for me at a different place, we worked in the office. She decorated their desk, welcome, and balloons and confetti and all the things that, like, that's just not in my wheelhouse. So if you're not into the celebrations and that's not your personality, get someone on your team who can focus on that, who loves that stuff. I mean, I give her a budget and she goes out shopping for gifts. She loves it. She goes shopping on the weekends to buy other team members gifts. I'm totally here for it. Whereas I'm the like lazy click on Amazon to check it off the list. I know that's terrible. It's not that I don't love them. That's just not my love language, right? So, the best way to understand a company's culture is to actually ask their employees. So, this is where I would look. I like to look on the about page of a website. Like, you can add, what do I love most about my job on the about page? If you've got your team members listed, where you'd have reviews of like customers that are happy. Why don't you add a section for reviews about why your team loves working there? What do your online reviews look like? Have you ever asked your own employees to write your review as to why they love working there? This really helps when you're hiring. But I also look for the online reviews to see whose names are mentioned multiple times, right? Who's got that customer facing interaction. Another thing is the salary industry standard. Someone just sent me a job description for a um, wedding planner coordinator position within a company, and it's a full-time role, and they were asking for a high level of experience. We all know if you're hiring a wedding coordinator, they're probably working every Friday, Saturday, Sunday of their life if your venue is successful. And the starting salary was 30,000. I mean, I don't know about where you guys live, but you can't even pay rent with a roommate on a salary like that here. And of course, there was commission opportunities, but for the level of experience they were looking for, the salary didn't match, right? And then what does the onboarding program look like when somebody new is coming into a company? These are the things that I like. You can ask your employees, what did you feel like when you were onboarding? Is there ways that we could have improved when we bring the next person in? Right? My team has helped establish the onboarding, things that they wish they knew or tools I had given them. So I've added that in each time as somebody we finish their 90-day review. That's part of it where I'm like, what did I miss? Like, what could you want differently and give to them? It's about like starting before people get hired. You've got to plant the seeds of culture, right? We've got to plant the seeds. We've got to reap the rewards of it on the other side, but you've got to plant the seeds. 66% of job seekers consider a company's culture and values the number one most important factor when they're considering career opportunities in today's world. Is that wild? Does that blow your mind? 66%, that's the number one thing. Like 66% think it's more important than the salary. They care about the culture and the values of the company they're working for. So you've got to recruit a little bit differently. One of the things that I would love to see, us as an industry focus on better is better, stronger job descriptions. You can add if you've got core values set up and things like that, but you want to talk about what's important to you, what's the culture like, write that into your job description. The second is the interview process. The third is unique benefits. And the fourth is your onboarding program. So let's talk through some of these. Okay, so first up is job descriptions. Things that you should make sure you're including in your job descriptions. A targeted job title. Your job description should be clear, concise, and consistent. It's not so much about it being short, you just want to be concise and not repetitive. What are the responsibilities and duties? If you're thinking outside the box for something that might be confusing or a little bit different, you could add a section for what's a day in the life look like. Are there career path opportunities for this position coming in, especially if it's entry level? What are the qualifications and skills? Um, you can showcase if this is a company culture fit. So I like to on my job descriptions add a this job is perfect for and this job is not good for you if. And then what are the benefits and what are the pay ranges? Make it clear. Don't hide it and be like industry standard. Like tell me what the range is. You should never put a salary dollar amount. You should put a range in there, right? As to the lowest to the highest, because it's going to depend upon their experience and what they bring to the table. Next up is the interview process. When you start to evaluate your interview process, you've got to look at things a little differently, right? Talk about the company culture during the interview, define the boundaries of what's acceptable and not. What do we allow here? What do we not allow here about time off? Practice what you preach, talk about rewards and how you measure success. What's your process for feedback? Like, how often do people get reviewed? Do you do one-on-ones? What does that look like? Be clear that you're open for change. You're looking for somebody to come into the position, evaluate it, learn how we're doing it now, and provide us like areas where they see gaps in. You want to learn about them and their work style and find out what matters most to them as you're interviewing them. Next up is unique benefits. I'm going to go heavy and fast through some of this, but yeah, unique employee benefits are a huge one. So, culture, the most important thing that if you take one thing away from this that you implement, if you are growing your team, or even if you have a team, and I don't care if the team is two people, we have what's called our favorite things list. So, when a new employee starts, it is their like day one thing that they fill out. It's a form on the website. And I mean, I just have a Google form for it. So it all dumps into a doc so I can find it, a Google sheet so I can find it later. And it's all of their favorite things. Like, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite place to eat? Like, where would you splurge? Because I'll buy them gift cards to things like that. It just learns so that I'm rewarding them as an individual, not as something they don't want to do. Like, I have a team member that doesn't drink. So if I'm like, what's your favorite cocktail or what's your favorite thing to drink at happy hour? So now I added mocktail to it. Like, what's your favorite mocktail? So if we all go out and I get there first, I can kind of pre-order everybody's drinks. Things like that all the way through. A lot of other things that you can do when it comes to the culture. These are like massive lists for you. If you want to take screenshots of them, that's fine. Obviously, it will live on the recording, but there's a few like really popular ones in here. Free wearable swag is an easy one. Just giving them like logoed shirts and things. I have a few logo dresses, but those dresses are dresses that I picked and then the company embroidered them instead of them deciding, like, I'm a big girl, I got boobs. Don't give me a men's polo and expect it to fit, right? All the way through. So there's all different kinds of culture that these are considered employee benefits, right? That could be part of your benefits package. We got to think outside the box. We can't all afford to just give people full health insurance and retirement, and all that is great. And I'm not saying if you can, you should, but think about things that these are things that can be listed as employee benefits. My team all works from home. Everybody gets to set up your home office budget. They get a certain amount of money. Obviously, we give them their computer and stuff, but like if you want to decorate your home office or get a new mouse pad, I don't know, but we give them a budget. They're allowed to spend it on anything they want. Some creative ideas for time off ideas. You can do things like your birthday, paid day off, a work from home Friday, extra days around the holidays. If you don't have weddings over Thanksgiving weekend or you shut down that weekend, give them the Friday off as a paid holiday. Of course, there's your traditional stuff, but it's not always going to work because we're like hospitality people. So maybe you've got floating holidays. Maybe they can't be off on the 4th of July because it's a weekend. Float the holiday. Give them one floating holiday that they can, or three floating holidays where they can pick the day instead of what would be traditional non-hospitality days. I have a team member that her birthday is like 2 weeks away from Taylor Swift's birthday. And so they get their birthday as a paid day off, but she's a massive, crazy Swiftie. So I also gave her Taylor Swift's birthday off. I mean, it's not that complicated, guys. But you have to know them as individuals as to what they love. And she was like, it was like the reason she took the job, she said. I'm sure that's not it, but it was a benefit, right? Invest into your talent. There's so many different things that you can do to invest into your talent that could be considered benefits, right? Like there are so many different things you can do. You can do lunch and learns. This is a great way where you can tap in that mentorship. You can do a book club with the team. Each person on my team has what we call a personal development budget. So if they find courses, classes, books, anything that they want to spend, they have that budget all year. Once a quarter, I send them a reminder saying, here's what's left in your budget. I give them each $250. And then, but like conferences, if there's certifications, technology reimbursements, out of their development budget, everybody's allowed to choose a new app or an automation or something they want to do. And I spend the money and invest in it. And then they have to teach us when we buy them a book, they have to come back and present what are the best things they learned within a month of using it. So that's how I know they take advantage of it. There's wellness and stress relief. There's so many things that you can think of. And a lot of these guys are tax write-offs for you when you're investing in education or learning for your team. We had, I don't know, we've done wellness contests. I had a massage therapist when I worked in the office of the Golf Academy come to the office once a month, and everybody had like, it was just chair massage, but everybody could sign up for 15-minute spots if they were into it, and they freaking loved it. So, what are the things that you can do from a wellness stress relief standpoint? Can you give them diffusers for the office so it smells like a spa? What can you do to create an environment that they want to be happy in? Employee recognition, some of these should be standards of things you're doing, but restaurant vouchers or get out of the office free card, or I don't know, TGIF surprise giveaways. It's a busy Saturday. Anybody on site? You do a day off giveaway, a day off paid if you can do it. New employee referral programs are huge. Like when somebody refers somebody in that we hire, oh my God, do I bonus them because now there's accountability because they referred them. Those are the best people that I've ever hired came from someone else referred. You can do some family friendly if this is something that is a part of your team. Um, But can you do things like extra time off for paid bereavement leave if something were to happen? One of my team members actually left the job to come work for me because when there was a loss in her family, she actually, like 10 days, and it was her father, and it was a tragic, tragic situation. Like 8 days in to her being in the hospital and dealing with, she got an email from her managers being like, of course, you can still be off. We just want you to know that you're out of vacation time, so you're not going to be paid. That like actually happened. Think about the fact that these are your people and you've got to give to them, right? So, what are the ways that you can support them? You can do community involvement. That is such a big deal for Gen Z. They want to get involved in the community, right? So, what can you do? We've gone to Ronald McDonald House and cooked in the kitchen as a team. None of us know how to cook. You should have seen them trying to freaking cut onions. It was wild, and we laughed our butts off. Kate, my admin, is also an artist. She did this whole cool menu board. We had a blast. But how can you get involved in the community and do it as a team? There's an amazing organization we love called Lasagna Love, and we're doing a whole networking event around it. It's literally about making lasagnas uncooked and delivering them to people in need. It's everywhere in the country, so go check that out. What are the time savers you can do, right? Dry cleaning at the catering company. My boss would bring someone in twice a year to detail our cars. It was freaking the best benefit. We loved it. Like I knew we'd know it was coming and we loved it. And it was really because he just wanted to get his own car detailed and thought if I'm going to do mine, I might as well do all yours. It was awesome, right? Other miscellaneous things and ideas. The next generation is really into education about financials. So they care about financial literacy and retirement and estate planning and things like that. Bring someone in to educate them, right? I mean, it's as basic as like everybody when I worked at the hotel who started on their first week, they got to choose their own office chair. They could sit in the chair that they already came in, or they could buy a new chair, and they had a budget. And you would think that we gave people, it was like they were so excited because comfort while you're sitting on your butt for a chunk of the day is super important, right? So, what are the things you can do to think outside the box as employee benefits? Of course, there's big budget items, but I left these for the end because I want you to think creatively and outside of the box of what are things that could be considered a benefit to do. I mean, the fact that we had free health insurance at the Golf Academy made up for the fact that we had to travel all over the country. We were dealing with teenagers 24/7. It was a huge benefit that we got. And of course, a tax write off for the company. So think through sometimes that money gets is better spent as an employee benefit. Okay, let's talk a little bit about onboarding. That I onboard everyone like they're the most expensive employee on the team. Even interns, I treat them like they're $100,000 a year employee, right? So proper onboarding includes all of these types of things, right? What to wear and a handbook and setting clear goals. Onboarding is so important. You really want to focus on creating like setting the expectations for them and going into like how can you make them feel special and welcome and excited? Do you have nothing's worse than when an employee starts? I mean, it's one thing if you give them an offer today and they start tomorrow, but like get them the business cards and the name tag before, expedite the shipping on name tags to get them in. So on their first day, they have a basket of things, right? Maybe you have them fill out that favorite things form beforehand. And so now you know what their favorite snacks are at work, or their favorite drink, or their favorite pick me up, right? You can put those things in a little welcome basket or reward them the whole first week with different stuff. That's kind of standard employee onboarding, but you can do some creative things too. We like to do lunch roulette where they spend one day the first week having lunch with someone else on the team. Can they start later? God willing, new employees, I always have them for the first week come in at 10 instead of 9. So I get to, or whoever's training them has that 9 to 10 o'clock window to catch up before they show up and they're just sitting there, right? Think out, can you do like a massive graduation yay at the 90-day window that they've like hit it, they're here, they've passed their 90-day review, they've done their KPIs, and when you're in it, right? It's a lot of things to think about, but you're not going to do all of these things. I just need you to like think about what are the most important things for you to implement in all of this stuff, right? What defines a great and healthy culture are things like practical perks and a fun environment and trust and flexibility and positive feedback, right? All of those things really matter and they're super important. Like each person on your team is original and one of a kind. They don't fit in the box of the person who was there before. they might not fit perfectly into the job description you were hiring for, but you've got to start when you're interviewing people figuring out, is it trainable? Is it like an innate need? I need them to have that skill set, or can I train it and can I teach it? Right? Like each person is individuals. And when you start to focus on, the generational differences and really understanding, I mean, when I started running that golf academy for a minute of time, I had 60 employees underneath me, 11 direct reports of everything from like, I had like 17 and 18 and 19-year-old employees. And this was when Gen Z wasn't even here yet. These were just the young millennials, right? Gen Z was just starting to come up. And I was like, damn, we really have to figure out how to maximize the opportunity with the people that are here, right? Like, I want them to want to stay because the turnover was insane there. And I'm like, we have got to fix the culture if people are going to stay here. And some of it was as silly as like the owner was a little volatile, right? The owner is like, had he liked to yell a lot when he wasn't happy. And he wasn't yelling at you, but he was just yelling. And so I took all meetings with him where he was really like heavily involved and would get hot out of the office. We actually did them at his house because it was killing the culture. I was working so hard to build culture, and then they'd hear him screaming. And I was like, they were texting me, "Are you okay? Do we need to come in there?" Blah, blah. And I was like, "No, I'm fine. He's just pissy. It's fine." Right. But that kind of behavior was killing the culture all the way through. One size does not fit all. You have to level this up. So there are two resources. One of the things with Venue Help Desk that we're really passionate about is giving you the resources to help move your business along. So if you're here being like, I'm doing it all myself and I wish I had help and I need to grow, but I don't really know where to start, that's fine. So there's two resources that will be up on the website. If you're here watching this live, they'll be up on the website by tonight, tomorrow, and I'll drop it all over in the Facebook group. But we have two popular requests. One of them is for venue job descriptions. So our team has sat down and written 7 detailed venue job descriptions, everything from a part-time social media manager, brand manager, general manager, operations manager, venue and like wedding and event venue coordinator and a salesperson, all separate positions, but we have written detailed, extensive job descriptions as well as a hiring and team success toolkit. So that toolkit includes all the stuff I've covered today, all of the interview questions you could ever want to ask, organized by category, all the unique benefits I could think of, some I covered here and way more than that, all of the job descriptions, and also a link to that favorite things form, where you can see the insane amount of questions that I ask my team when we onboard them. So all of that will be up in the shop, on the tools and resources page on the Venue Help Desk site, and it'll come in the email that goes for anybody who registered for this webinar. If you missed this, or like, damn, my HR manager should have been watching this, not me. If all of our Power Hour replays always get loaded up to the Venue Help Desk Insiders Network into the Facebook group. You can always ask us more questions outside of this. And, anything you need, the group is the place to find us, collaborate with us, submit questions. We'll make videos to answer them. I do Monday morning motivation a lot of times too. So if you've got something specific you want me to talk about, that's a great place to do it. Save the date for next month's Power Hour. You're stuck with me again next month, but it's Tuesday, April 15th at 1 p.m. And it is about publicizing and monetizing your reviews. It's the step-by-step process, how to get more reviews, what to do with them when you get them. We know that reviews are the secret sauce of what's happening in the industry. So if you've got questions, now's the time. I'll go back through the chat. It's our time for some open discussion all the way through. So I am going to scroll back through. I saw Eric posted, slight tangent, but how do you balance the solicitation of feedback and the frequent inability to implement those suggestions due to financial or logistical limitations? That's a really great question. So one of the things you can do, like, my enemy is always time. My staff asks for stuff that take me time. It's not always financial, but sometimes it is. Or so let me be the employee at a venue. The things that I would ask for in terms of feedback, sometimes it's things we need to fix and upgrade and update. For example, went to a venue yesterday to tour here in Orlando, and the carpeting in that venue is shot. I mean, shot isn't even the word. It's really, really, really bad. Ownership wasn't there. The sales managers were. I said, "What is the hardest piece for you right now in terms of closing your tours?" And she's like, "Everybody complains about the carpet." So I think sometimes as a staff member, It's about how they approach the situation, not saying like, I hate our carpet, it's ugly, because that's probably what she was doing. So I think I've taught my team to explain to me not just the feedback of things they need to see or why they want to see it, like, but I want to know why. Why is it important to you? Why do you want to see it? How is it going to make us money or our systems more efficient or save us time? I want to know the why behind it. Because if the why is just your opinion, I'm going to push you back to say, go get me data. So I said to this girl, you need to go get data. I want you to, every tour you go on in the next 30 days that they mention that carpet, start ticking the box. So you can go back and say, out of the 20 tours I did last month, I only booked 10 of them and 15 of them mentioned how bad the carpet looked. Do you think maybe at some point, if we want to make more money, we've got to make that change? So I think that's a big piece of it. But I also think that I create space and time for those ideas and that feedback. So once a year, my team does a big picture retreat. They keep all of those things. We keep running docs where all their ideas live. And I try to go in there and read it like once every few months to see if they've popped off something. And if they've got something that's like hot, they can bring it to me on their monthlies. I do monthly one-on-ones with each person. So they can bring it to me on their monthly. But most of the time it's like big picture ideas or it would be nice if we XYZ. And once a year we do a massive retreat and we look back through all of those ideas and we plan out for the next year per quarter and we do it before my budget season. So if I'm working on my budget in November and December, we do that retreat at the start of November so I can see what of their ideas. I can also set the sales goals to meet the money I've got to spend. So I hope that helps, but I do think it's important to help them understand the why. I when I worked at the golf resort, I thought I should make more money. I sold $3.5 million a year, and I was like, how come I'm not making more? Like, duh, I should be making more money. I should be so well paid. My boss put me in a golf cart, drove me out to the middle of the golf course, and was like, isn't this the most pretty spot that all your brides love to take pictures at? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, do you want to know how much money it costs a year to keep this grass green? And I was like, ooh, no. And he's like, perfect. It costs 1.3 million for this grass to be green. That's the seed, the fertilizer, the watering, the landscaping, the maintenance team, the equipment upkeep, the whatever. And like my jaw dropped. And he's like, how many rounds of golf do you think we would have to sell for 1.3 million? And I started mathing it and I was like, oh God. And he's like, we couldn't even do that much golf here. So your wedding money keeps this grass green for your pictures. So that money isn't just Shannon's money in her own pot. He explained to me the big picture of the why and where the money goes. I'm not saying you need to give them every detail of things, but I do think it's really important to explain to the generations a little bit more of the why. Like they want to understand why. And if you're going to roadmap it for the next year, I'd be like, listen, I hear what you're saying. I know it's important to you. I know it's making it hard to sell. It is not in the budget for this year. So two things have to happen. Either you've got to get creative and sell your butt off so we exceed goals, or you have to like know that I'm going to put it into the budget for next year. My boss at the venue used to constantly set me ridiculous sales goals if I wanted something. If I want a new carpet in a space, or I was like, we really need to like change the lights, not just the light bulbs, but like the lights are looking dingy and awful. And he'd be like, how much do they cost? He made me price it. That shit was always wild once I started to figure out what some of my ideas cost. He made me price it. And then he'd set me some kind of goal the next month and be like, close at least 5 of your tours within 48 hours of the tour, and I'll buy you the new lights. So he always made me like money motivated because sales is, I'm a beast. So I love sales goals. Eric also shared we've been lucky to have longevity with our core team. 9 full-time employees, only 2 had to leave, 1 to motherhood and 1 to following her husband to another state. That's amazing. Eric, it sounds like you've got killer freaking culture there, right? Like that's an important factor. He also shared if you're a small business trying to maximize tax savings and benefits your employee, the 401k program and the 401k profit sharing can be huge. That's amazing. Great advice. If you're a venue owner, start looking into these things. Because at the end of the day, if you're just going to pay the money to freaking the government for taxes, why not put it back into yourself, your retirement, and your team? I saw some other feedback. It's sometimes easier to bring in someone without experience because you can mold them to your business. If the passion is there, the rest can be taught. 100%. I think there's like skill sets, basic like personality types when it comes to a salesperson. I'm not saying that an introvert couldn't be good at sales, but it's sometimes difficult for someone who's super quiet unless they're like an omnivert or an ambivert where they can turn it on when they need to hit goals. to do, but it is sometimes easier to teach people. Um, let's see, I've experienced, I had to tell my boss to stop screaming at my team. Oh, yeah, Melody, it's dangerous, right? Like, I can take it. I'm a tough cookie. And the first time he did it, I was like, whoa, is he screaming at me? And then I was like, oh God, he's just yelling. Like, that's how he feels like he needs to be heard. It doesn't bother me, but damn, like, you can't do it to my people because my people will shudder because I don't talk to them like that and treat them like that. I hope you guys got some amazing ideas and feedback. I hope I'll get to see you next month at the Shout It, Say It, Live It, Publicize and Monetize Your Reviews. If you haven't yet joined the Facebook group, now is the time to join. And if there is a specific topic that you'd like to see a power hour about, please don't hesitate to reach out to us directly at hello at Venue Help Desk or post it over in the group. We would love to be able to help support you. We've got some great topics coming up. We've got some exciting things coming. We've got our lead management course, the Leads Lab, is coming late spring, early summer. So that's really exciting. And if you are looking for some in-person education, we are doing a one-day venue education here in Orlando. Me, Ian, and Paul are all speaking, and I'm bringing in two other amazing educators. I will post about it over in the Facebook group. It's called Beyond the Aisle, and it's really just one day venue focused education. It's local here in Orlando, so if you're here, you should definitely be checking it out. But I know Carissa's already got a ticket to come, and the Dub Shred team loves to come out for venue education. They're spoiled because I live here. But if it's something you're interested in learning more about, I will drop it over in the Facebook group. Obviously, there's travel, that comes into, but if you're looking for venue specific education, it is the second week in May. I think it's Tuesday, May 12th. Don't quote me. It's either Tuesday the 12th or Tuesday the 13th, whatever that Tuesday is in May. Come on out. We would love to see you, love to have you. If you have any questions about things or about this topic, please don't hesitate to reach out. Tuesday the 13th. Thank you, Ian. I was like, oh, I didn't memorize the date. Tuesday the 13th here in May, here in Orlando, the Lake Mary area, right outside of Orlando. So if you have any questions or want to learn more, head over to the group. I'll make sure to drop it in the link. So, oh, look at that. Ian's so good. He just dropped the link down in. If you want to learn more about the topics, Ian's covering tour, lead stuff. I'm doing lead management. I'm doing tours. Paul's doing a trends panel. We've got a leadership speaker coming in, and an amazing marketing person about how to choose better images and get your hands on more of those marketing photos you wish you had. So, hope I'll get to see some of you in person there. But if not, come find us over in the group. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you so much for joining us live or catching us on the replay, either way. And we'll see you next month.